And as good and as great as that one helicopter is, I firmly believe, and I think the citizens of Colorado would, you all would agree with me, that we want to protect our forests and our and the animals and our pristine environment that we have in Colorado. And after seeing all of the wildfires that we saw last year, it's great that we have one, but we really need two, because, for instance, as big and as diverse as our forests are and everything, is that what if there's a fire way in northwestern Colorado, and then there's a fire down in Los Animas County? There's no way that this good helicopter can be in both places at once. And what if it breaks down? Unfortunately, you know, even new equipment breaks down. So thinking ahead, because these helicopters, it's not like we just go buy them off the lot. You have to order them. I believe I am correct that this Firehawk that we're getting, we're not even going to get it until next year in 2022. So we still have to go through a whole season without it. They're highly effective. They can take 12 men at least, and over 1,000 gallons of water, and drop them in literally right by a fire that's just started, and take that 1,000 gallons of fire retardant or water and drop it right on a clump of trees that's going up. They can go to a body of water and get refilled almost instantaneously. So, you know, this is good fire prevention that Colorado should have not one but two of these Firehawks. And the other point I would make is I'm sure someday that we'll realize how valuable they are and cost effective they are, that we'll want to order one, and the longer we wait, the more expensive they'll be. And last but not least, it's a sound investment, because these large wildfires that we have, they burn tens of millions of dollars worth of valuable forest land and homes and other structures. So, you know, this is excellent prevention. So I urge an aye vote on Amendment 21. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can the good senator from Colorado Springs please explain the difference between a Black Hawk and a Firehawk?
Senator Liston.
Thank you. Yes, to the good senator from Denver. What the difference is a Black Hawk is a military. It's the military version of the Firehawk. The Firehawk, simply they've attached a water tank to the bottom of it, and probably some other sundry types of things. So the Black Hawk, which is a great helicopter for the military, we see them flying over Colorado Springs all the time. But this is the civilian version of it, and it's specifically made to fight fires, where the Black Hawk is military aircraft. I hope that answers your question.
And knowing is half the battle. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I rise in support of Amendment 21. I'll tell you a number of reasons why. First, as many of you may or may not know, I'm an avid skier. This year's snowpack has been very sparse. Last year's was okay, and the year before was very sparse as well. Look at any map of the state, and we're in extreme drought. I submit that this summer is going to be once again a very difficult fire season, and probably going forward for many years. An investment like this could conceivably save a city like Boulder or Colorado Springs from being a major insurance liability, much like New Orleans was with Katrina. So I applaud the senator for bringing this amendment. I think it's forward-thinking and money well spent. And furthermore, I think policymakers, the governor included, should consider issuing a statewide fire ban sooner rather than later, given that this summer is going to be very dry. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also rise in support of this amendment, as the Firehawk is built in Centennial, Colorado. If you didn't know that. They are retrofitted there, the Black Hawks, at the Centennial Airport. So in support of that, I rise in support United Rotorcraft is the company over there that held the bill signing. And it's an excellent opportunity to see some economic stimulus here in the state.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to rise in support of my good friend from Centennial, who represents the northern end of the runways at Centennial Airport, and proud to join the southern end of the runways that are in Douglas County in Senate District 30 in support of the amendment.
Senator Rankin.
So thank you for the amendment. Firehawk is indeed a fantastic weapon to fight fires. Find them early, get fire crews on site, put out the fire. The debate, and this has been discussed widely in several forums, JBC funding, the debate is the whole continuum. It's about forest management, it's about mitigation of the forest interface, it's about preventing fires before they occur. And then it's about detecting fires, putting them out, and then it's about restoring. If you go to Glenwood Springs, we're restoring a 100-year-old watershed that was damaged. Up in Grand Lake, where Northern Water gets their water, watershed is damaged for many miles around Grand Lake. So the debate is achieving a balance. So the way the debate went is, let's do as much as we can in mitigation. Let's get at least one Firehawk on order, and then let's try to match federal grants for restoration. So that's how the balance went. And the outcome was that we move ahead and put one of these helicopters on order. Sure, it would be nice to put another one on order, but I just wanted to give you a little context of the whole issue of fire mitigation, extinguishing, and recovery, because the balance that we struck was this one helicopter on order, along with literally as much resource as we can absorb and have the capacity for in mitigation on the front end. There will be a lot more to come on this, and indeed, we may come back and say, let's get another helicopter on order in the near future, next year. But for now, that's the way the debate went, and the outcome was, well, you see, one helicopter. So as much as I appreciate the thought behind this, as much as I personally like to see another helicopter on order, I think we have to honor the debate that went into it.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the good senator from northwestern Colorado, I appreciate it. And I realize that, that there's other aspects of this, like you say, the mitigation, which I fully support. I've always supported the mitigation. To use that old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I agree with that. I am just kind of thinking ahead, trying to, because mark my words, I will go on record that I think that sometime over the next year or two or three or four, we will realize how valuable these Firehawks are, and how useful and how much that they've saved our forest lands and saved the taxpayers. I mean, it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. So the longer that we wait, the more expensive these Firehawks are going to be. So part of where I'm really coming from on this, I know that this major aerospace company, Boeing, or any manufacturer of aircraft, a lot of times, they can only produce so many aircraft each year. And that's probably true for the manufacturer of the Firehawks, it's the Black Hawk model. But, let's put in our order now. It doesn't mean we have to necessarily take delivery in 2022 or 2023, but we'll have our place in line. We can probably nail down a favorable contract, and we'll find that we're going to need it and want it, and we're going to say, it's so great that Senator Liston, I won't take all the credit, but the Senate had that foresight to reserve another Firehawk because Colorado needed it, and it's so useful in 2023 that they were so smart in 2021 when they ordered it. So let's think ahead, members. We have lots of money, stimulus money that's still coming, and I think that if there's a will, there's a way. So I urge and I vote for Amendment 2021 to save the forests and save the animals. Thank you.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just briefly, I'm reminded of the old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And one of the things this amendment would do is put us badly out of balance when it comes to mitigation versus suppression. We already have a helicopter on order. This body has already put one in the queue. I don't believe it's necessary to add another in the near term. And keep in mind that this has significant ongoing costs. So not only do we commit $18 million with this amendment, we then would immediately need to commit another $6 million to convert it to a Firehawk, and $4 to $5 million per year for the pilot, the maintenance, the fuel, etc. So this is a very big commitment that we make each time we consider an asset like this, and we need to balance mitigation with suppression. And doing 2 Firehawks this year throws us badly out of balance. We get huge upside from mitigation and watershed protection. We are under-investing in that. And we need to do more on that in the coming fiscal years, not additional air resources. And also keep in mind, it's not just one Firehawk we're adding next year. We're also adding leased aircraft, other types of small aircraft, fixed wing, and helicopter assets. So you have to look at the full context. That's exactly what we did with the experts from across the state at the JBC. And for that reason, I ask for a no vote on Amendment 21.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, members, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the effects of a wildfire close up. I mean, really close up. I have. I've mentioned several times. I'll continue to mention it again. You know, it's one thing when you read about it in the paper, or you see the smoke plumes, or you see the side of the mountainside that's been burnt. But when you go up to a wildfire, like I did down in Huerfano County, the Spring Creek fire, and you see these trees and the land and everything, it is like, because that's really the equivalent, it is like a H-bomb went off. The ground is slick. The trees are just absolutely blackened. I mean, it's just unreal when you see what's happened to forest lands after a wildfire. I mean, it's sickening. You know, it makes you really sad to think not only what's happened to thousands and thousands of acres, but what's happened to the animal life and so forth. But when you see it up close, and the Spring Creek fire, because I was down there when they had a couple of planes trying to put this humongous fire out, where they knew exactly where the fire started. I mean, they knew where ground zero was. And if they would have had an aircraft like this, the Firehawk, they could have been right on top of it in an instant or so. But with one helicopter, and none of us, I don't know, maybe the good senator from Routt County will be able to tell us. I don't know where they're going to keep this thing based. Probably, hopefully, somewhere up in the forest lands. But Colorado's a big state, and last year in August, September, I think we had 2 or 3 big fires going at once, if I'm not mistaken, and it was taxing the crews, taxing the aircraft, and just to have one of these Firehawks, I think we're going to find. I'm really sincere about this. We're going to find that, gosh, I wish we had another one. Let me tell you another story. It's true. Colorado Springs is the home of the global super tanker. That's where it's based. And I remember the big fires back in 2018. And I went right to the headquarters, to the operations center, and I go, gosh, why can't we get the global super tanker to help put out these fires? It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from these fires in Colorado. And they go, well, there's only one of them. There's only one. And it's under contract somewhere else. We're sorry. There's nothing we can do. It might be available for you next year or 2 years from now, which would have been 2020. Wouldn't it have been nice to have the global super tanker to put out some of these major fires? But no, there's only one of them. So, members, mark my words, we're going to want one of these things, another one of these Firehawks. We're going to need it. And as to the cost, like I say, we can reserve it and get in the queue. That doesn't mean we have to pay for it all at once. I know the fiscal note says $18 million, but it's my belief that if we went to the manufacturer and said, look, we want to put a third down now and get in line because we're pretty sure we're going to need this in 2023, I'm sure they would take our money and we wouldn't be spending that maintenance cost, that extra $6 million until we really need it. Members, I urge and I vote for Amendment 21. Thank you.
Senator Rankin.
Well, thank you, Senator from El Paso County. I'll stick to my no vote request for several reasons. One of them is, the senator from Denver talked about achieving the balance. And, we are a deliberative body, and until we achieve that balance between mitigation, suppression, restoration, it's not going to make sense to the majority of us to commit to the next helicopter. It's just a matter of where we focus resources now. I will remind you that there was some long bill adjustment. There are two different JBC bills, and there are two different stimulus bills around this subject of achieving balance. So as we go forward, I think we have a great opportunity to talk about the toolkit. And by the way, I want to just take a minute to thank our Division of Fire Prevention and Control and all of our local firemen, truly heroes who get on top of these little fires. Thousands of them every year. A few of them break out. Unfortunately, I had the opportunity to walk in some ashes this summer because a lot of these were in my district. But we first have to achieve that balance, and then I hope, Senator, that we come back and ask for that next fire hose pretty quick. So thank you for the amendment. Vote no.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion on the floor is the amendment of amendment number 21. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. The clerk, please read Amendment 22. Smooth handover.
Amendment 22.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
may I, before you move it, just say thank you for the amazing food. Very well cooked, much appreciated.
Thank you.
To the amendment, Senator Cook. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 22.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along those lines, there's an old saying, don't bite the hands that feed you. And so I would ask for an aye vote so you don't bite my hand and by voting no on the hand that fed you. But what this bill does, or the amendment does, it takes $3 million that's already in the general fund and adds another $3 million for the body-worn camera grant program. If you all remember 217, it requires all law enforcement agencies to have body cams by a certain date. However, there was no money appropriated for that. There are over 260 law enforcement agencies in the state, over 13,000 law enforcement officers. Body cams cost around anywhere from $300 to $500, but to do all the things required in 217, you're gonna have to buy the high-end one, the $500 one. If you take that by 13,000 law enforcement officers, that's over $6 million. Colorado Springs recently spent $750,000 on their body cam system, $572,000 for just the body cams alone, and this really affects agencies from very small agencies throughout the state, small, rural, mid-sized, large. But the body cam is not all of the expense, the camera. Colorado Springs spent $20,000 a year on data transmission, $150,000 to pay benefits for evidence techs that do nothing but monitor the body cam program. Problem is there's no funding for this. Other than the $3 million, it's going to take at least $6 million to have agencies comply statewide on this. I would ask for an aye vote because, again, we mandated this, and if we can't afford to do it, then we shouldn't be mandating body cameras for everybody. So I would ask for an aye vote.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I know the senator from Greeley was feeling self-conscious about
the cooking of meatless options, but they were cooked perfectly, so thank you. On this amendment, as was stated, we did include $3 million for this program. I think we are struggling to determine what exactly is the need, because it is a new requirement. It is over an extended period of time, right? It's not like the requirement goes into effect immediately. It is phased out over a period of time. And so I think once we get a handle on what the true need is, I don't think you'd see any objection from members of the Joint Budget Committee to ensure that local law enforcement agencies have the resources that they need to institute this. But we did include $3 million, hopeful that we will get an idea of what the true need is, and then we can come back and adjust later.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would encourage an aye vote on this amendment. I have heard from my House District Committee Chair that this was of a particular concern for my House District, as well as the Arvadans for Progressive Action have made this their #1 priority as a local issue. They believe very strongly that we need to be able to support and provide the appropriate resources so that we can actually do a good job about enforcing the laws that we have already passed. And so I would ask for a yes vote.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, the body camera is actually almost the cheapest part. But we need to give some relief there. The storage is really expensive. I talked to a sheriff who says he has to spend $1,200 to $3,000 a year per deputy for storage. So we need to give them some relief on the camera so that they can actually pay for the storage and the added personnel. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thanks for the amendment. We need to do this. We will do this. It's just a matter of process. So I just point out that this kind of issue where we're developing the requirement is absolutely open to supplemental bills as we go forward and as the requirement developed. We put the $3 million against it because that was just a guess at a good start. And so I want to assure you that that was the start, recognizing that the legislature is absolutely committed to this funding.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment 22. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Noes have it. That amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 23?
Amendment 23.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 23.
To the amendment.
This is an increase in funding for the Colorado Civil Rights Division. This is an extremely important allocation. It's only $650,000 a year, but right now when someone in Colorado faces discrimination or harassment in employment, housing, or public accommodations, claims can take up to 450 days. That's too long for people seeking justice and remedy. And so this allocation allows us to hire some more full-time employees, including investigators, to help make sure we're speeding up the process.
Senator Corum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I actually asked for an aye vote on this. I think this is important. We're waiting too long for these investigations to happen, and the representative outside the door, the sergeants need to send him out. Get rid of that man.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment 23. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The aye has it, and Amendment 23 is adopted. Will the clerk please read Amendment 24?
Amendment 24.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Amendment 24.
To the amendment.
Thank you. Members, Amendment 24 is asking for $149,550,000 to be appropriated from the general fund to the State Highway Supplementary Fund for specific projects that are listed within the state's 10-year strategic project pipeline. Since 1993, this state has had a responsibility to create a 20-year multimodal transportation plan. In 2019, the state embarked on an effort to refresh our transportation plan and priorities based on firsthand input from residents across the state. The effort was touted as the most expansive outreach process in the history of the department. Along with updating the 2045 multimodal transportation plan, a 10-year strategic project pipeline, also known as a capital improvement plan for the state, was created. The list of projects in the state strategic project pipeline are regionally and state significant projects. The list equals about $10 billion in a list of projects. The list came from a planning process with our 15 transportation planning regions, 10 of which are rural, 5 are metropolitan planning organizations. This truly was a bottom-up approach, grassroots approach to developing our capital improvement plan or our 10-year strategic project pipeline. Senators, it's time that we get serious about funding our capital improvement plan and funding transportation in Colorado. It's time we get serious about prioritizing transportation. The people of Colorado keep asking us to do it. We all know that investing in transportation creates ripple effects across the economy, resulting in new jobs and economic growth. In 2018 alone, the U.S. Department of Commerce stated the construction industry contributed $21.3 billion to Colorado's gross domestic input. Construction wages and salaries alone totaled $11 billion statewide. Here's what else we know. From not building and getting our transportation projects completed, we know that 38 million gallons of fuel is wasted, representing a direct cost to travelers and the environment because of the congestion on our roadways. Traffic congestion costs Colorado $3.6 billion each year. We also know that by 2045, the number of those 65 and older will increase by 29%. That means the need for mobility services such as local transit, regional and statewide transit, and busing will increase dramatically. We also know that our interstate corridors like I-25, I-70, and I-76 are key freight routes for the state and are in need of major pavement reconstruction due to years, and I mean years, of deferred maintenance. And all of these projects focus on safety improvements as well. So again, I'm asking for the amendment, asking for your vote on an amendment that would take just shy of $150 million from the general fund and put forward into the state highway fund, highway supplementary fund, for a list of specific projects which are listed here. The projects represent, again, regional and statewide significant projects throughout the state and every portion of the state in every single transportation, regional, engineering area. The improvements within this amendment include a mixture of highway improvements, bridges, and $11.25 million of transit expansion projects. They are advancing the projects that exist in the state's capital improvement plan, in the state's vision for Colorado's transportation system, identified as a 10-year strategic pipeline of projects. These projects are ready to go. They can be completed. A lot of these projects have been in the plans for years. CDOT doesn't need to go create any more lists. We simply need to do our job and fund transportation, make it a priority for the state of Colorado. Thank you.
The senator from Lundin had his hand up. Would you like to speak, sir? Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree that we have to prioritize transportation in Colorado. And my concern with many of these amendments is they're actually listing out specific projects. And as the good senator from Weld County mentioned, we have this 10-year plan that actually honors our grassroots local government, local community approach to identifying plans. And this amendment and many other amendments have specific projects listed. And so I want to do a quick history lesson of transportation funding in Colorado and how we do transportation funding in Colorado, which I think is a pretty exceptional way to do it. So the Colorado territorial government from the 1860s to the 1890s, and by the way, I very much hope the good senator from Douglas County, part-time history professor, likes this lesson. So from the 1860s to the 1890s, we approved 43 toll roads around the state. Going through the history, it looks like the General Assembly from the very first year dedicated funds to the Highway Department, which later became CDOT. Early in its history, when there wasn't a steady, reliable funding mechanism, the power of the rich miners who could build roads and then charge tolls for them became a problem. Later, the legislature in 1899 did authorize the building of a road between Leadville and Pueblo using convicts. According to the history, the legislature used convicts more than any other state at that time to build roads until the late 20s, when complaints from contractors and federal prohibitions turned the state away from convict labor. But here's the important part. The legislature created the Transportation Commission more than 100 years ago. In 1910, and we have a copy of that first Transportation Commission report, after the governor at the time vetoed 50 earmarked bills proposing various road improvements. From then on, so for over 100 years, we've actually been using the Transportation Commission as a way to choose how we are funding transportation and what projects we're doing. That has created today where we have TPRs and MPOs that take input from local governments, come together with a ground-up approach for choosing how we fund transportation. Other states do it differently, and they have a hodgepodge of transportation issues where I, as the transportation chair, could say I want to build a rainbow bridge over I-120th and Sheridan, where I live, and that would happen. But we actually have been doing it a better way for 110 years, and specifically listing projects in these amendments upends that tradition. It upends the work that went into the 10-year plan. And so while I agree that it's very important to fund the 10-year plan, this isn't the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Winter. I'm hoping that Rainbow Bridge reference was to the Marvel Universe and not Norse mythology. But either way, Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the good senator from Westminster. And I agree with her. Transportation Commission has been picking projects. And this list of specific projects is in the Vision for Colorado's Transportation System. The Transportation Commission themselves approved these projects. First of all, they've done it a few times. But in December of 2020, you can find the complete list of projects on the webpage that talks about these plans. And these projects are in there. As a matter of fact, just as recently as March of 2021, we have a draft of the projects that they are going to fund, and these projects are in there. These projects came up from the base, from the grassroots, from the transportation planning regions. And oh, by the way, we were created in 1992 to develop the first ever statewide transportation plan. Came up from those, went to the STAC, the State Transportation Advisory Committee, who recommended this list of projects, worked with the commission, worked with CDOT. Then CDOT, the Transportation Commission at the Department of Transportation, approved these projects. Then they started programming these projects. The projects that are listed here are projects that are in the first 4 years of the state's transportation plan, the STIP, the State Transportation Implementation Plan. They are in the first 4 years of the 10-year strategic pipeline of projects. They just simply are not funded. We have close to $10 billion worth of projects in the 10-year strategic plan. Only $1.8 billion is funded. We need to get serious about transportation in this state.
The senator from Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this amendment. You have heard us say many times that the people of Colorado have been very clear about their priorities. They want to get back to work in jobs that pay them more. Their employers would like to be able to hire more people. They would like their children to be back in the classroom, learning and regaining the ground that they've lost. And they would like us to fix the roads and bridges of Colorado. Now, you're going to hear some arguments against this. First, you're going to hear, oh, but this violates local control. This upsets a very complicated, labyrinthine process that we've had in our statute since the 1800s. The reality is this honors that process. If you look into the CDOT documents, and you got a little preview, you can look in the most recent, the 4-year plan. The list of projects are honored. They honor this 4-year plan. You can look into the 10-year plan and see what's called out for in the 10-year plan. In fact, this list honors that 10-year plan. It honors the process and identifies what needs to be done. You're going to hear an argument that says, oh, no, we must expand our reserves. We shouldn't be fixing the roads and bridges of Colorado. We should be expanding our reserves. But the reality is, if you look further into the list of ways that this General Assembly chooses to expend its money, you're going to see that there is $170 million of Democrat politician pet projects that will be somehow funded. And you will not hear the argument against those pet projects that they are in fact taking money from the reserve. Those pet projects are things like innovative housing and community revitalization, $60 million. Clean energy finance, the Charge Ahead Colorado to identify locations to install more EV, electric vehicle charging stations, $40 million. You're going to hear about Colorado startup loan funding, $30 million. Purchasing hotel rooms and renting hotel rooms, $15 million. Investments in irrigation infrastructure projects that, quite frankly, if you talk to the folks that would be affected in the areas that these irrigation projects are being requested for, would not be requested. The answer is this idea that there isn't the money is false. There's $170 million of Democrat pet projects that will somehow magically find funding. You are going to hear at the end of the day, as we move further into this session and we get to a broader conversation about restoring and building the roads and bridges of Colorado, you're going to hear from one side of the aisle that we must raise your taxes, but we're not going to call them taxes, we're going to call them fees. And so we're going to hide the fact that we are going to you, Mr. and Mrs. Colorado, raise your taxes without even giving you the opportunity to vote, as the Taxpayer Bill of Rights gives you a right to vote. We're going to raise your taxes instead of putting the money we have to work on the roads and bridges of Colorado today. So the answer is you're going to hear arguments against this, but to my ears, those arguments ring hollow. They fall flat. They do not do what we've been sent here to do, and that is solve the priorities on behalf of the people of Colorado. This amendment asks for $149 million. I'm telling you, there's $170 million set aside for pet projects that should go away and go into these roads. This amendment identifies roads that are already in the plan. Many of these roads have their environmental approvals, for heaven's sakes. It takes forever to get the environmental approvals anymore. If you've got a road that's been approved, it's part of the plan, it's environmentally sound and prepared, all we need to do is put the money we already have to work in the engineering, the asphalt, and the concrete that the people of Colorado are asking us to do. So I speak to my colleagues and ask for their support of this amendment, but I also speak to the people of Colorado. We hear you. We want to put the money that you are already paying in taxes into the roads and bridges of Colorado. And we ask that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle join in that effort. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator, and I would ask that members keep their comments confined to the amendment and the topic of the amendment. Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I think we got some pre-debate there on a future debate, which is always great to foreshadow. This is a big conversation, no doubt. What we're talking about right now, though, is Amendment 24, and we heard some great comments from our Chair of Transportation and Energy about the history of this process. The other thing I would add is that in this long bill, you are being asked to approve $124 million set aside for covering the COP payments to cover additional investment in roads and bridges. We did that in Senate Bill 267 together. That was a bipartisan compromise to create $2+ billion of COPs we are covering those COP payments now out of general fund as proposed in this long bill. You're also seeing significant transportation and infrastructure investments in the state stimulus package, and we're going to continue to allocate significant resources from the general fund and from stimulus package to highway funding. And so with that, I ask for a no vote on Amendment 24.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great, great. That's a great start. It doesn't even come close to the need. As I explained to you earlier, in the 10-year strategic pipeline of project plans, our capital improvement plan for transportation in the state of Colorado, there's about $10 billion worth of projects that need to be funded. According to CDOT's plan, as of December 2020, they have $1.8 billion in years 1 through 4 funded. They have $3.2 billion of projects that they can program and get going that they don't have the funds for. $3.2 billion. So the $124 million to pay off the COPs is great. It's good. It's late. We should have done it before. Another possible $170 million out of a stimulus, great. Doesn't get us close to the need. This state has horrific needs when it comes to transportation, and they have been woefully underfunded for years. So I ask you for an aye vote on Amendment 24, the amendment that takes the Transportation Commission approved plan and advances specific projects in that plan. And let's put our money to work for the citizens of Colorado.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do rise in support of Amendment 24 and thank the senator from Weld County for bringing the amendment. I also want to say thanks to the chair of the Senate Transportation and Energy Committee. I did enjoy the history lesson. Agree with what she had to convey very much. It's important that the people of Colorado understand how transportation projects are funded in our state and who makes the decisions on what gets done. Because Colorado is unique. We have a unique state constitution, really founded in the concept of local control back in 1876, and it remains that way today. So when we have constituents who move to Colorado from other states where such decisions are maybe made at the state legislature or at the governor's office or in a combination of the two, when people come to Colorado and expect that those decisions are made here in the Senate chamber, and they contact their state senator and find out, no, that's not how it works in Colorado, sometimes they say, oh gosh, okay, I have to learn a new way. More often they say, I don't like that, that's not the way it's supposed to work. And that can be very frustrating. So thank you to the chair of Senate Transportation for offering that historical perspective. Another little historical perspective here in Colorado, it comes from our Constitution. It prohibits omnibus bills in the legislature. Well, it prohibits omnibus bills except for one every year, and that's Senate Bill 205, the long bill, the budget, all-encompassing. So I will attempt, Mr. Chair, to keep my comments to the amendment, but the amendment is to a bill that is the only omnibus bill that we get to pass each year, and we have to. Amendment 24 is an amendment that I support, and I think the members of the caucus on this side of the aisle we support, because we have, in relation to state funding and federal funding, this budget, we have consistently pointed to getting people back to work, kids back to school, and roads and bridges. So when we find things in this omnibus bill of Senate Bill 205 that are outside of those three goals, getting people back to work, kids back to school, and roads and bridges, well, we've said before the budget, we say now, and we will continue to say, if it's outside of those three goals, we're going to say, instead of spending money in that way, let's spend it on one of those three goals. And that's what Amendment 24 is. The good senator from Weld County has identified $149,550,000 of things we don't necessarily agree with. And that's okay. We don't have to agree. But we think that spending this $149,550,000 on roads and bridges and to the points that the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee made, we're not trying to presume to decide what projects get done. Transportation Commission, that's their list. We're saying, let's spend these dollars now on that list. So I would struggle if we were going to say, no, let's build a new road. Let's build a new highway somewhere. We're not doing that. Let's build a new bridge. No, we're not doing that. We're using their list, and I think it's important that the General Assembly exert itself. We should have this say, to say, yes, we want these dollars, because we are still the appropriators. We want these dollars to go fund the projects that are on their list. I think it's important that we have our voice heard, because we speak for people we represent who come to ask us questions like, well, who decided to put in those extra toll lanes on the interstate? The good senator, I think from Weld County, mentioned earlier, for a long time, those of us who live in the north end of the Gap in Douglas County, the southern end of the Gap down in El Paso County, we've been hearing from constituents who've demanded that work get done, and to the points we've already discussed, we don't decide that. CDOT, county commissioners, DRCOG, the Pikes Peak Regional Council, they decide those things, but we don't. So when constituents come to me and ask, well, who decided that the Gap got done and that at least one lane north and south would be tolled? Express lanes. You pay more to take that, and I have to explain, well, I didn't. The legislature didn't. Well, except the legislature did back in 2009 when it approved the FASTER bill that created 2 new enterprises at CDOT. And Mr. Chair, I'll come back to this bill, but this amendment in Senate Bill 205, but those are the kinds of questions that we get, and the answer is we didn't make those decisions. Enterprises and their boards, and oh, by the way, the board of each of those enterprises at CDOT, that's the Transportation Commission. Well, who's at the Transportation Commission? Those are appointees of the governor, not elected. And the constituents, they don't know who those people are. They know who we are. So I rise in support of Amendment 24 because it lends our voice. We're saying yes to the projects that have been identified outside of this building. Yes, let's put these state tax dollars to work in funding that list. Yes, let's get this work done. And yes to what the people of Colorado are asking us to do. Get people back to work, kids back to school, and to fund roads and bridges. Not only the construction of new roads and bridges, but maintaining and improving those that are in a degraded state. That's what Amendment 24 is about. We may not agree about everything in this omnibus bill. We may not agree with the majority on everything that they want to do. New ways to spend money, restoring ways to spend money. But we can agree on this. I ask for an aye vote on Amendment 24. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion for Amendment 24, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment 24. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Noes have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 25?
Amendment 25, J028 to Senate Bill
Senator
205.
Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 25.
Thank you for moving it to the amendment.
Clearly, this body rejected that last amendment because it was too small. Or maybe you didn't like some of the projects. I decided another way to go about this was to focus on the key tourist areas where locals are demanding that we fix the roads, those roads that they travel every single day. When I took a look at the long list that CDOT has already approved, projects that are ready to go, I saw roads like State Highway 119 in Boulder. Let's fix that road. Maybe you live in Pueblo. Pueblo has a $60 million need to fix I-25 through the middle of the state. Those folks who live in Wheat Ridge in Arvada sit right in the middle of a road that leads up to our Great Mountains. So that's why I picked I-70 as the Harlan Road Bridge project. And then there are a bunch of other rural roads out west, from Blue Mesa, Lake City, Leadville, Vale, Aspen, Gunnison, Poncha Springs, Hotchkiss, Crawford, and Salida. Folks who live in those areas are demanding a quick and immediate fix. It's time for us to put some money where our mouth is. I know this number is small. I'm only asking that $176 million be put toward fixing these projects. That's small in compared to the $10 billion list that they have out there, but these are shovel ready and ready to go. These are already approved by CDOT. They're on their plan and they're just waiting for the funding. So this is our chance to say to the folks in Boulder, Vale, Wheat Ridge, Arvada, and throughout Pueblo and the rest of the state, it's time to fix those roads.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask that you support Amendment 25 as well. Again, these projects are projects that are listed in the 10-year strategic pipeline of projects in the first 4 years that need to be funded. These projects are ready to go. These projects have come through the ranks. Many of these projects have been sitting in a transportation regional plan for well over 15, 20 years. People have been waiting long enough to have their projects funded. I know for a fact that several of these projects were in the 2015 or the 2020 statewide multimodal transportation plan. Members, it's time that we start putting some serious funds towards fixing our transportation problems in this state. Ask for an aye vote on Amendment 25.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment 25. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Those have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 26?
Amendment 26, J09 to Senate Bill 205.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 26.
To the amendment.
I know how this body hates to waste money. So far, we've invested $1.2 billion to fix the north end of I-25, to expand our primary transportation artery. It has all been for naught. Trucks and heavy traffic are squeezed back to 2 lanes through one of the busiest sections of that interstate. Those squeeze points not only lead to congestion, traffic jams, and pollution, but they are among the highest accident locations in the state. Amendment 26 puts $50 million to finally finish the North I-25 corridor by expanding an express lane between Highway 56 and 402. We'll have a straight 3-lane travel method to go north out of Denver so that our freight, our tourists, our workers can get back and forth freely, safely, and quickly.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of Amendment 26. This project has been in the plans for well over 20 years. Funding I-25 north in North Colorado is extremely important. I-25 is considered a national highway of significance. It's a national freight corridor, and it's a corridor that assists in our national security. In 2013, when the flooding occurred in this state, I-25 in this area was closed. Can you imagine on Friday the 13th, 2013, every north-south road in northern Colorado, including I-25 and Highway 85, were closed because of flooding. This road is in desperate need of repair. Sections of this segment 6 on I-25 project, we were told in 2012 that they had at that time, actually I'm sorry, in 2009 we were told that they had a 10-year lifespan. Well, it's 2021 and we haven't fixed the road yet. So members, ask that you support this amendment. It's important again that we start funding transportation in the state of Colorado.
That was tough math, but I think I got it. The question before us is the adoption of Amendment 26. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? No. Those have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 27?
Amendment 27, J032 to Senate Bill 205.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I am coming to you today as a politically correct dairy farmer. So what is happening in transportation? The dairy farmer would say, we're nursing from a bad back quarter. You know what I'm saying. Monday, the road to my house is closed for 19 hours a day for 2 years. Means at least an hour longer drive for me, several more miles. And this is happening because somehow we can't afford an additional $8 million. So we're talking millions and billions of dollars here today. But it's okay to destroy the economy of a community for $8 million. It's okay. They're just rural people. They don't really matter. I'm going to tell you, it's getting a little irritating. And with that, I moved Senate Bill, or Amendment 27. This is only $1.85 million, but it is the access to what Colorado calls their diamond jewel in state parks, Ridgeway State Park. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion of Amendment 27, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment 27. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 28?
Amendment 28, JZL 34 to Senate Bill 205. Amend printed bill.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The dairy farmer is still at the podium. This bill amendment takes $16 million. Understand, this has been 10 years on the plan. It's just waiting for funding. That's all. It's waiting for funding. But it once again becomes very irritating when we're asking for $16 million, $1.8 million. When I look to the south and I see the GAP project that all of a sudden has a $200 million overrun. Did you hear that? $200 million. Thank you, CDOT. It's good to know we're doing so well. I look at I-70, $150 million overrun. Yet rural Colorado, where your food, fiber, and natural resources come from, the towns, the counties, the communities that support your way of life, and I'm talking to my sidewalk senators right now, those that don't live on a dirt road, those that have a sidewalk in front of their house. We're always talking about how lives matter. Seriously, our lives matter too. We need funding. Ask for an aye vote.
Question before us is the adoption of Amendment 28. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The noes have it. Amendment 28 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 29?
Amendment 29, JZL 38 to Senate Bill 205.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Third time's a charm. Cut $4 million out of this one. This is,
Sorry, Senator, will you please move the amendment?
thank you, I move Amendment 29.
Do the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. This is in a little community north of Natarita. Natarita Nuclear. Now, maybe you've heard of that. There's one that has. Had the cleanest coal fire plant in the nation. 120 jobs of 360 in the community. Those are no longer there. Their hope is tourism. Great rock climbing, backcountry, jeeping, mountain biking, everything you can imagine. Hunting, fishing. But that's not important, because there's only a few people live over there. They don't have the clout. You know, they don't have the voting. I was checking here a while back, talking about rural Colorado. There's 4 senators in this room on this side of the aisle that represent 78% of the landmass of Colorado. We're not asking for any favors. We're asking for a level playing field. And that's all. We don't need a 6-lane road. A good 2-lane road is good enough. We'll take that. As for an vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proud to rise in support of Amendment 29. And I'm also proud to say, yeah, I know where Natarita and Nucla are. If you haven't been there, when we're done here this year, put that on your list of things to do. Drive out west on I-70, and just before you get into Grand Junction, turn left at Clifton. Go down to Highway 50 and turn left and head down toward the good senator's house. About 1.5 miles down the road, turn right at Whitewater onto Highway 141. Try to get there by noon that day. Hopefully the weather's nice. And travel down 141 to a little community called Gateway. And then get out in Gateway and look around. You'll think you're in Arizona. You might think you're at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. But don't stop in Gateway. Head further south on 141 and go down to Natarita and Nucla. You'll get to Nucla first and Natarita. I would dare say, or I will say with confidence, it's the most beautiful part of Colorado you've never been to. And I would argue it might be the most beautiful part of Colorado. But if you haven't been there, I guarantee you it's the most beautiful part of this state that you've never seen. And the good senator from Montrose is right. If you're looking to be in crowds of people, you'll be disappointed because there's hardly anybody there. But the fact is, there are people there. That's home to people. That's their part of Colorado. They pay taxes in this state. Their kids go to public schools. They have a right to have good roads and bridges. But if you haven't seen that part of the state, it may seem less important. If you haven't been there, you haven't met the people, I wouldn't go so far as to say you haven't eaten in the restaurants, because there's not many of those there. But if you're looking for a place to get away from the crowds and be stunned at the natural beauty, if you don't want to drive all the way down to the Grand Canyon, just go drive 141 between Whitewater and Natarita. It's incredible. And it's definitely worth $12 million to fix that road. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly glad the minority leader asked you to go out I-70. Because if you go on 50, you can't get there from here. For 2 years. Ask for an aye vote.
Question before us is the adoption of Amendment 29. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Noes have it. That amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 30?
Amendment 30, J039 of Senate Bill 205.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 30.
To the amendment.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to get back to a figure that maybe you think you can afford. So let's talk about Highway 550 south of Montrose, Billy Creek area. 15,000 cars a day. It's not a lot if you think about here. The road's made for 4. I think we had 5 fatalities there last year. $6.5 million. If it happened anywhere on the Front Range and you have that many miles, that many fatalities in a short time, I guarantee you it would be the top of the list. I don't have any expectations of you passing this. I do have expectations of making it right when our stimulus funds come. These projects are ready to go. 1, they've been in the plan for a long time. 2, we need the jobs. Going to back at Highway 141, I talk about 120 of 360 jobs. And we have this thing called just transition. We're going to make it right, folks. We're going to make it right by you. Do you know how many jobs have been created? 6. As for Nigel.
Any further discussion on Amendment 30? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of Amendment 30. Are there any aye votes? Or any ayes? I'm used to a different. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 31?
Amendment 31.
Senator Coram.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem, Madam Chair. I never know what to call you, President, half the time, but I call you a friend all the time. I got a winner for you here. $3.5 million in your district. Highway 92. Once again, known as the death loop. $3.5 million. Now, the problem we're having with this, the reason we need to get this done, I mentioned to you about Highway 50 closed. Well, there's an alternate route, Highway 92, across the Blue Mesa Dam over to Hotchkiss, Crawford, Hotchkiss, Delta, back to Montrose. You understand you can't take a big truck over it, but you can put a big RV on it, and you can compete on the corners with the motorcycles. 10 years in the plan. $3.5 million. Let's do it. Let's get a win here today. 3.5 is better than nothing. Is it what we deserve? No. But the people of Delta County deserve that. If you lost a loved one on that highway, $3.5 million is no price at all. Ask for an aye vote.
Further discussion, Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
It's just chair.
We're still in the committee, aren't we? Madam Chair.
The position determines the title.
Fair enough. Well, I would offer up the honorific regardless. There has been, over the past several amendments, something that I've observed, quite remarkable. Now, I came down here and I waved my hands and I made a big passionate speech about already identified road projects that need to be done, money available, let's do it now, it's important. And we've seen amendment brought quietly, calmly, with a certain poignance, after amendment after amendment brought by my colleague from the southwest quarter, I would say, of the state of Colorado, saying, but what about this? No. But what about this? Danger, narrow roads, risky mountain passes. No. Well, but what about this? These are projects that aren't some wild idea. These are projects that are already understood to be in the plan. We've got the money. A simple $3.5 million ask is what's before us now. The quiet eloquence of safety for the people of Colorado is what you're hearing asked. I urge an aye vote.
Further discussion on Amendment 31. Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rise in support of 31 as well. I want to thank the good senator from Montrose for bringing these amendments. And this is another encouragement not only for the amendment, but if you haven't been on State Highway 92, you should go there. This is incredible treasure, I mean a world treasure area of our state. If you go to the west end of Blue Mesa Reservoir and then turn on to Highway 92 and drive through Crawford and Hotchkiss, your jaw will drop. Go up there during the summer. And if you haven't been there, go see it. It's real. And those people, as the good senator from Montrose has pointed out, there's not that many people there, so they don't have as much of a voice here at their capital. We represent people, not ground. But I happened to drive this highway, this stretch of highway with my son last year. And there's some improvement going on there, but man, does it need some improvement. It's a beautiful, stunningly beautiful part of our state. But there just aren't that many people there. It's a little tiny, narrow, two-lane road. It winds around. You've never seen so many S-curves. But the road needs to be improved. And if you don't believe me, either that it needs to be improved or how beautiful it is, please take some time. Don't always take the interstate. But drive up to Gunnison, go out west to Blue Mesa Reservoir, and when you get to the west end of the reservoir, turn off, go across the dam, it's a little spooky, and then wind your way up Highway 92. And when you see the little scenic viewpoint pull-offs, pull off. You'll look down into this emerald green reservoir. And if you haven't been there, you don't even know it's there. You'll drive through agricultural areas that are just stunning, like storybook, movie scenes, that probably are movie scenes. But then take a look, notice how bumpy and rough that road is. And then remind yourself, for the people who live there, that's not some rural, remote part of the state, that's home. And just imagine if your drive home was on such a road. You'd probably say, we need to improve that right now. So again, I'm proud to stand with my good friend from Montrose. If you haven't been in these places, go see. Vote yes on Amendment 31.
Senator Zinzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also like to encourage an aye vote. I'm from this area, and I actually just got to visit it over the weekend. I took my kid to go visit Western State College, and it was beautiful. And my children experienced for the first time their mother passing someone by going into the opposite lane of oncoming traffic. They had never experienced that before. They grew up here. They have never been on a two-lane highway before, and they've never experienced me or being in a car or a situation where they have to pass someone by going into the opposite lane. They about had a heart attack. They thought that I was veering off, that I had fallen asleep. They were freaked out. And I explained to them that no, this is just country driving. However, it is a little hair raising. It is a little, it does make your heart race a little bit, because some of those areas really should not be allowed to pass people in the opposite lane. It really does need improvements because of the sight lines, because of the tight corners. This is just one of those areas. And a few years ago, when I first got into the Senate, I got a phone call from Montrose, so I picked it up, recognized the area code, and it was the coroner from Montrose, Dr. Canfield. And the reason why he called me is he had learned from my parents that I was in the Senate, and he asked me if I would do something about this highway. He said, I am sick to death of people coming into my morgue from head-on collisions from this area. Will you please do something? So this is my moment where I can actually call Dr. Canfield back and let him know that I am trying my best to do something for my hometown. So thank you.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support of Amendment 31, and as we've heard, this is truly a safety project that needs to be completed on the western slope. And I can say that, yes, I've been on this roadway. It's been quite some years ago. This project's been in the plans. People have been asking for it to get completed 15, 20 years. And I just have to say, I just want to tell you about what I think is just the obscurity of sometimes of what we do down here. We're looking at trying to approve a $3.5 million project for safety reasons on our transportation system that we know has been there for years. And a few weeks ago, that we're arguing for today, and a few weeks ago in the Health and Human Services Committee, the diaper bank bill, which was for $4 million, got out of committee. So we're willing to spend $4 million on disposable diapers that aren't good for the environment, by the way. It takes hundreds of years to get rid of them in a landfill. But we won't consider spending $3.5 million on a truly important safety project on our state transportation system. Let's really think about that. I just think that's really obscure, not to mention ridiculous. So I ask you all to vote for Amendment 31.
The motion is the adoption of Amendment 31. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 32?
Amendment 32. Yes.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment 32.
To the amendment.
Thank you. Well, I actually understand the previous senator talking about diapers, because on some of my roads, you probably wish you had them.
To the amendment.
This is a great bill, amendment. It's $6 million. And let me tell you what makes it so great. One, it is in the good senator from Vale's district. We share a lot of beautiful country together. But the fact that we can't get $8 million so we can lessen the economic impact off the closure of Highway 50, this makes perfect sense, because this is on to the top of the hill after you get out of the canyon. And it's $6 million. So if we're going to shut this road down for 2 years, let's spend the additional $6 million and get the road done once and for all and done right. This is a good bill amendment. Vote yes.
Minority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rise in support of Amendment 32 as well. Love this area. Spend time every summer as much as I can at Blue Mesa Reservoir. But this route between Gunnison, past Blue Mesa, over to Montrose, beautiful area. The only disadvantage that I see in this amendment is we couldn't have the people of Texas pay for at least half of this, because at least half of the license plates you'll see in that stretch of road during the summer have Texas license plates on them. But the good senator from Montrose is right. If that stretch of road is going to be shut down and access to his community in Montrose, if those people are going to be forced most of the time to drive north up to Grand Junction and then use I-70 to get to Denver, or those of us who are over here on this side of the hill, if we want to get to Montrose, you can't go the beautiful way. If the highway is going to be shut down most of the time the next few years, let's do this project while it's shut down. Why would we do that? Why would we limit access for people in that community sometime in the future? Let's get it all done in one shot. Ask for an aye vote on 32.
The motion is the adoption of Amendment 32. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it and the amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment 33?
Amendment 33, J027 of Senate Bill 205.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, folks, you've been getting bargain basement prices here recently. Let me raise that bar. Let's talk about Floyd Hill. So what Amendment 33 does is it rebuilds Floyd Hill and makes Interstate 70 functional between here and the Eisenhower tunnels. Obviously, this is a corridor of statewide importance. There are serious safety considerations on the hill itself. And I know that you're looking at a number this big, $100 million, for those of you that aren't following along, and you're thinking, oh, we've got all this money coming from the federal government. Well, some of us have learned not to count our chickens before the eggs are hatched. There are crosswinds blowing in Washington, D.C. that may impact our hoped windfall there. Before I had Clear Creek County in my Senate district, I was guilty of saying, oh, I-70 has congestion 17 weekends out of the year during the ski season. Once I started going to Clear Creek County regularly, they took it upon themselves to educate me about Interstate 70 and how they're trapped in their own homes on the weekends. They can't even get out and go to town. It's so serious that I almost missed a 4th of July parade there one time, just trying to get up there to do a little campaigning. We can't have that now. So I would encourage an aye vote on this transportation corridor that is so important to not just this state, but actually the whole nation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The motion is the adoption of Amendment 31. All those in 33. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read? There's an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment 34?
Amendment 34, J031 of Senate Bill 205. Amendment printed bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would withdraw Amendment 34 and 35.
Amendment 34 is withdrawn. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment 35?
Amendment 35.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I withdraw Amendment 35.
Amendment 35 is withdrawn. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 36?
Amendment 36, J036.
Senator Heisey.
Okay, there was no appetite for $100 million, so I move Amendment number 36.
To the amendment.
This is a $5.8 million rural paving project. It runs from the city of Florence in Fremont County up into Custer County, or down into Custer County if you're looking at the map, and Custer County is south there, to Highway 96. These good folks out there, these are state highways that these folks use. They pay their taxes just like everybody else. It is our responsibility to keep these roads in good working order. The folks need these roads, and this one in particular, just to get to groceries and probably more importantly, medical services. I urge an aye vote on Amendment 36.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 36. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment 37?
Amendment 37, J040 to Senate Bill 205.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we've already talked about the importance of east-west corridors, so here's another one. Highway 50. Actually, let me move amendment number 37.
To the amendment.
Thank you. This amendment would put in passing lanes on Highway 50 between Salida and Howard. And I suspect most of you, if you saw a map of Colorado and had to put your finger on Salida, could get fairly close. Maybe not so on Howard, but it is on 50. This goes through the Bighorn Sheep Canyon, which really kind of takes off there about the Royal Gorge and runs most of the way to Salida. It's narrow, it's crooked, but there are places in the canyon where it widens out. Given the increased traffic that we have down there, and again, this is year-round, more so in the summer, but year-round we have heavy traffic. It's important that in those wider areas we put in some passing lanes so folks are not trying to do unsafe things like passing on a double yellow, something I see regularly when I drive out to Howard. I tried to get an accident count from the State Patrol on this, and what I got was a map with dots on it of different colors. You know, red is there was a life lost, and then you had injuries and then property damage. That stretch of road is virtually one dot on top of the other. This is truly a safety consideration, and I would ask for an aye vote on Amendment 37.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 37. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it, and Amendment 37 is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Please read the title to Amendment 38.
Amendment 38, J013 to Senate Bill 205.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I move Amendment 38.
To the amendment.
Members, this is the last amendment to the long bill, which you should be happy about.
All those in favor say aye. No. Sorry, Senator.
But it's a good amendment. And here's what the amendment does. The amendment puts back in place what the Capital Development Committee had put and recommended to the Joint Budget Committee. Understand the process here is that we make recommendations to the Joint Budget Committee. We prioritize the list based on our discussions with all of those entities that come to us. Then if JBC decides not to go with our list and change our list, by statute, they're supposed to come talk to the Capital Development Committee and explain what they did. Well, that didn't happen this year, and they kind of blindsided the Capital Development Committee, so I didn't have an opportunity to work through this. What I will tell you is I took the numbers that they spent on capital, and I re-put them back in the list as the Capital Development Committee brought forward. And what that means is it funds those projects plus the level 2 controlled maintenance to a certain point. And that was the intention of capital development. Now you're going to hear them come up and tell you that we're going to save money by funding the out-year costs like what they did. The fact of the matter is if you spend $300 million and you save money on those tier 1 items because of construction cost increase, you're going to lose the same amount of money in the tier 2 level that will be coming up next year. So it's going to cost you the same number of dollars,
The idea here is instead of putting money set aside where they can't spend it all in tier 1, let's get the tier 2 stuff started so we can save money there as well and get many of these projects fixed. As I said, it's the same dollars. You're either going to have increased costs in the second year of those out years that they're trying to fund, or you're going to have increased costs in the tier 2. Ask for an aye vote for Amendment 33.
Further
Or
discussion.
38.
The motion before the body is, Senator.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And members, I'm going to urge a no vote on Amendment 38, much to the surprise of the chamber. A couple of things for you to consider. First of all, we were presented with a Tier 1 list that had significant out-year costs. And it certainly was on our minds that we wanted to try to lower the overall contracting costs of projects on the list. The good senator from Sterling brought that up. But what I would add to that is we didn't want to repeat the mistake that we had to deal with last year, which was that we have projects that are halfway or 1/3 through completion, and we had to do COPs last year to finish those off. We didn't want $100+ million obligated in future years in case we have a downturn. And I think that was heavy on our minds when we discussed this at JBC. And so we felt it appropriate to de-risk those projects, to de-risk the budget for capital by making a larger commitment to the Tier 1 projects that CDC sent us. So keep that in mind. It was the Tier 1 projects that we added additional resources to. The second thing I'll mention is that we wanted to make sure we were covering both Controlled Maintenance 1 and Controlled Maintenance 2. Those are the most critical maintenance projects that we have across the entire state portfolio. It includes higher ed as well as other state buildings. We felt that that was urgent to get those done, to make that commitment, and it has a great stimulative effect because those projects lead to immediate employment. And the last thing I'll mention is that we were in constant contact with the chair, vice chair of the CDC, and what you're seeing in the long bill is a result of those communications. So I ask you to please vote no on Amendment 38.
The motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 38. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The noes have it, and that amendment is lost. To the bill. The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 205. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 177 lay over until tomorrow, April 9th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that bill will lay over until tomorrow. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 61, Senate Bill 72, Senate Bill 173, Senate Bill 116, and Senate Bill 1106, or House Bill 1106, also to lay over until tomorrow, April 9th.
The motion before the body is laying over the Senate Bills 61, 72, 116, 173, and House Bill 1106. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and those 5 bills will lay over until tomorrow. We would then be on to Senate Bill 211. Senator Moreno. Pardon me. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 211?
Senate Bill 211 by Senators Moreno and Representative Huron concerning the removal of certain measures related to the reduction of the adult dental benefit enacted in House Bill 1361 in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 211.
To the bill. The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 211. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 211 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 215?
Senate Bill 215 by Senators Hanson, Rankin, Representative Harada, and McCluskey concerning the use of open educational resources of public institutions of higher education and in connection therewith making appropriation.
Senator Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 215 on second reading.
The motion before the body, is there further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 215. Are there any no votes? All right, so all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Still second thirds. Senate Bill 215 is passed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 218?
Senate Bill 218 by Senators Hanson and Rankin, Representative McCluskey concerning revenue allocated to the Employment and Training Technology Fund and the Division of Unemployment Insurance and the Department of Labor and Employment.
We already did it.
Senator Hanson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 218 on second reading.
And the appropriations?
And the Appropriations Committee report.
The motion is the adoption of the, I am out of practice at being committee of the chair. The motion before the body is the adoption of the appropriations report. All those in favor say aye. Oh, Senator Rankin, on the appropriations report?
Yeah.
Discussion? Senator Rankin.
The amendment added in the appropriations report capped the transfer that's involved in this bill from the employment trust fund to the IT account in labor and employment.
Further discussion on the appropriations report. Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the appropriations report. All those in favor say aye. All those in favor say no. The aye has it, and the appropriations report is adopted. To the bill. The motion before the body, seeing no discussion, is the adoption of Senate Bill 218. All those in favor say aye. All those in favor say no. The aye has it, and Senate Bill 218 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 219?
Senate Bill 219 by Senator Rankin and Representative McCluskey concerning the manner in which money is appropriated from the Colorado Avalanche Information Center Fund.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Madam President. I move Senate Bill 219.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 219. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The two ayes have it, and Senate Bill 219 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 222?
Senate Bill 222 by Senators Rankin and Representative Ransom concerning the repeal of the State Recovery Audit Program in connection with reducing an appropriation.
Is there any, Senator Rankin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 222.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 222? Seeing no discussion, the adoption before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 222. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 222 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 223?
Senate Bill 223 by Senators Hanson and Representative Ransom concerning the location of the Department of Revenue Administrative Hearing.
Senator Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 223 on second reading.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 223? Seeing no discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 223. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted, and Senate Bill 223 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 224?
Senate Bill 224 by Senators Hanson and Representative Ransom concerning capital-related transfers of money.
Senator Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 224 on second reading.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 224? Seeing no discussion, there is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment L002 to Senate Bill 224?
Amendment L002 to Senate
Senator
Bill 224.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L002. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the amendment that deals with the actions that the Capital Development Committee took this morning by approving an additional overrun for Adams State. Ask for your aye vote.
Further discussion. Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and colleagues. I urge an aye vote on this amendment as well. The Capital Development Committee was able to take a close look at this project this morning. We've got wide agreement that we need to move forward with funding this project, and to make sure that we've got functional HVAC systems at Adams State. And so urge your support of L002.
Further discussion on L002. Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L002 to Senate Bill 224. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L002 is adopted. To the bill, Senate Bill 224. Further discussion. Seeing no discussion on Senate Bill 224, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 224. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 224 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 228?
Senate Bill 228 by Senators Hansen, Moreno, and Representative McCluskey and Ransom, concerning the creation of the para payment cash fund to be used for future payments to the Public Employees Retirement Association in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 228 and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Appropriations Committee, we just made sure that there were the proper fund splits for the para payment. It doesn't all just come from general funds. Some of it comes from cash funds and that kind of thing. So that's what the Appropriations Committee report does.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 228. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 228 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1102?
House Bill 1102 by Representative Duran and Soper and Senators Hawkins Lewis, concerning requirements of pet stores.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1102 and the amendment that was heard in Ag and Natural Resources.
Could you also move the Agricultural and Natural Resources report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I move the amendment that was in the Agriculture Committee. Is that? Yes.
We'll take that. Is there any further discussion on the committee report?
Yes, so we amended the bill to remove some of the requirements around licensing of the 13 pet stores that still sell puppies and kittens.
Further discussion on the report. The motion before the body is the adoption of the Agricultural and Natural Resources Committee report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've all known about some of the problems with out-of-state puppy mills, and this bill is now a transparency bill. It requires some more reporting from the pet stores about the breeder, and that information will be listed on the Department of Agriculture's PACFA website, which is the Pet Animal Care Facilities log that you can look about information about where the puppy and or the kitten came from. And so I move House Bill 1102.
Further discussion on House Bill 1102.
As amended. What is it?
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1102? Senator Lundin. Thank you, Senator Lundin. That we will stand in a senatorial 5. The Senate will come back to order. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1102? The motion before the body is the adoption of Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the time. My memory is bad, and I remember where we struck out basically in the amendment 7 through 24 on page 3. Can you tell me other changes that were made in the bill?
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
I am happy to help my colleagues remember the committee meeting because I know it gets confusing. We took out licensing requirements that had to do with you could only keep the license in the family's name. We took out other requirements, and this was basically because there were concerns around that it could impact those pet stores businesses. And we're talking about only 13 pet stores in Colorado because the big box pet stores don't sell puppies or kittens anymore from puppy mills and kitten mills.
Further discussion. Senator Quorum.
Thank you, and I apologize. I've been doing so many other things here today. But at one time, it was the sale of the pet store. That has gone away, so that is a saleable item now, can be sold, inherited, or all that, correct? Thank you.
Further discussion. The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1102. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1102 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1097?
House Bill 1097 by Representatives Young and Pelton and Senators Field and Gardner concerning recommendations from the Colorado Behavioral Task Force and in connection therewith establishing behavioral health administration.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I move House Bill 1097, and there is no committee report.
Further discussion. The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1097. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1097 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 208?
Senate Bill 208 by Senator Moreno and Representative Herod concerning the transfer of $100 million from the general fund to the state election fund.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 208.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 208? There is an amendment at the desk on Senate Bill 208. Will the clerk please read L001?
Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 208.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L001.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is something that I think we really need to talk about, and I think it's very appropriate that we're talking about it on Budget Day. And we've talked all along of getting our kids back in school. What do we have to do to get our kids back in school? And how do we get kids on the bus? Does the parent feel safe that the kid is on the bus? And, you know, we've talked to several different school districts. Bus ridership is way down simply because of COVID. Cleaning costs have gone through the roof. I was just looking at our alma mater, Montrose High School, and their increased cleaning costs this year is $140,000. Increased cleaning costs. And I think it's important that we get the kids back in school. But we also need to get the kids back in school where it is cleaned with a safe product. had an opportunity to hear from a friend of mine talk to Dr. Michael Cordona, the new Secretary of Education from Connecticut. And they passed a clean school cleaning bill. You know, a lot of time the cleaning is done with bleach. That's actually dangerous. So we are promoting a pilot program, taking $5 million from this program, from the Department of Ed, and starting this pilot program to help these schools with the outrageous costs of cleaning. Now, as I said, Montrose is just a small district, but $140,000 is a lot of money, so.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for almost 6 decades, the school bus has been the most trusted way to get to school. And in fact, 375,000 of our students normally ride the bus. Yet this year, and we all know why, ridership is down as much as 75% because parents are worried about the health risks of COVID. At the same time that parents are concerned about the disinfection of school buses, the CDC continues to warn us about the overuse of toxic chemicals that clearly state keep out of reach of children. These are the same ones that our state is using. So in my school district in Jeffco, our largest fleet of school buses, they're using social distancing, which means that the bus drivers have to take small groups of kids, then disinfect the bus, and then repeat this process 3 to 5 times, 3 to 5 times a day, depending on the route. So this is a problem if we don't have confidence or faith in the products that are being used, and we also want to make sure that our kids get to school in the safest possible way. And for that reason, we are asking for your aye vote today on this amendment.
Senator Moreno to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I am going to ask for a no vote on the amendment. The entire bill is 10 lines, and here you have a multi-page amendment that is doing what I would argue is outside the scope of what Senate Bill 208 is seeking to do. But instead of asking for a title ruling, I will just request a no vote.
Further discussion on L001 to Senate Bill 208. The motion before the body is the adoption of the amendment. Are there, all those in favor say aye? Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it and that amendment is lost. To the bill, Senate Bill 208. Further discussion. Without seeing further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 208. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it and Senate Bill 208 is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 225?
Senate Bill 225 by Senators Rankin and Representative Ransom concerning the repayment of cash funds from which money was transferred in 2020 for the purpose of augmenting the general fund.
Senator Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. President, I move Senate Bill 225.
Is there further discussion on Senate Bill? There is an amendment on the desk to Senate Bill 225. Will the clerk please read L001 to Senate Bill 225?
Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 225.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L001.
To the amendment.
Thank you. If you will recall, those of you that were here last year, we committed grand larceny in raiding cash funds from consumers that had paid money in. And to keep my good friend, the senator from Commerce City, from joining me right here, it was blessed by a judge years before. So there are no warrants for your arrest, at least not for that. But we need to restore those funds that millions of people in Colorado paid when they purchased new tires. I urge and I vote on this amendment.
Further discussion, Senator Moreno Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Amendment L001, I do take exception to grand larceny. I would refer to it as petty theft. But colleagues, in recognition of the fact that we were in a different place last year, ideally we would not have had to transfer money from cash funds. We did. However, particularly for the one that is referenced in this, which is the waste tire program, we have ensured that program will continue through the long. So I would encourage a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Rankin to the amendment.
Well, I'll do a rare departure from agreeing with my JBC colleagues and ask for a yes vote. This calls to mind this practice, and it's a large practice, of sweeping cash funds into the general fund and not repaying them. The largest one is severance taxes over the years. The balance is, I think, still around 300 million that's been swept from various severance tax excesses in years when it was good and not repaid in years when it was lean. We will face that problem in the next couple of years as we have to rebuild those programs. So we have returned some of these in critical areas, and this is one more. The question is for you, when you bought new tires and you paid your waste tire fee, what did you expect that money to be spent for? Did you expect it to go to Medicaid and all of our other programs? I don't think so. And we have many, many cash funds, and it's absolutely legal, based on Supreme Court judgments over the years, to not only sweep a cash fund, but then to raise the fees to replenish the cash fund. That should not be legal, in my opinion. So I'd ask you for restore this one more of these programs that we swept last year to its current state, to its previous state. Thank you.
Further discussion, Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I stand in support of this amendment as well. Believe it or not, I used to oversee the waste tire fund at the when it was at the Department of Local Affairs, and was involved with it when it was first begun. The money in the waste tire fund is to be used for picking up and disposing of illegally disposed of tires, which there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands throughout the state of Colorado. It is also to be used for recycling, and it's used in a manner where we use it for recycling in a lot of really good ways throughout the state of Colorado. So I would urge you to vote yes on this amendment, and let's restore this program.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of L001 to Senate Bill 225. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it, and Amendment 2 is lost. To the bill. Seeing no further discussion on Senate Bill 225, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 225. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 225 is adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body at 317 is that the committee is rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
We don't need it.
Mr. President, we've got a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
There we go.
Man, Smallwood, you should chair.
Did you
Way
see
to go.
that?
Thanks, Dominic. Come on. Well played, sir. Well played. Unfair, but no, I shouldn't say that. Not nice.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 205 as amended, Senate Bill 211, 215, 218 as amended, 219, 222, 223, 224 as amended, 228 as amended, 208, 225, passed on third reading and ordered engrossed and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1102 as amended, House Bill 1097 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 177, 61, 72, 173, 116, House Bill 1106 laid over until 4-9 and retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report?
Amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move COW Amendment 001.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, you get your shot now. This is an opportunity for you to help us all out here and help out counties. This is the amendment to say that Amendment 1 to 205 did pass. And I'll be very brief. We just need to keep our word. In 2017, a survey was done, and it showed that the per diem price per day on average should be $81.65. In 2018, House Bill 1132 was passed, required counties to report to the General Assembly the cost of housing DOC inmates in their county jails. It also required that the General Assembly must consider the information when it establishes the DOC reimbursement. I know there were comments earlier that it's a variety of prices all the way across, or costs all the way across counties. I will just tell you, I found out, Summit County, it costs them $120 per day per inmate. Clear Creek County, it costs them anywhere from $80 to $100, depending on if the inmate needs medical services per day. Weld County, $108 per day. Right now, we are reimbursing $59.42. Amendment 1 said, let's increase that to $80. Let's keep our word. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 001 to the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Donovan, Buckner, Lee, Senzinger, Coleman, Hawkins Lewis, Danielson, Pedersen, Colker, Janal, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Hanson, Story, the Majority Leader, Rankin, Moreno. Please add the President. Senator Fields, please add Senator Fields. With 16 aye votes, 19 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 001 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 002 to the committee of the whole report?
Amendment 002, Committee of the Whole Report. Senator Lundin moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to show the following Lundin and Woodward floor amendment. J035 amendment to Senate Bill 21205 did pass.
Senator Lundin.
Mr. President, I move Cow Amendment to 205, Cow Amendment 002.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Crisis in Colorado started out as a pandemic. We made policy choices. We made decisions, and those decisions affected people's lives. The future, that's premise one. Premise two, the future of our state is our children, and their ability to read is fundamental to what our state will look like. Premise three, a hidden crisis lurks. Students who are not able to read, who have fallen behind, who need a little bit of help in order to catch up. This amendment puts $60 million in proven evidence-based programs that we know make a difference, that will help children catch up. It's a critically important thing that we focus our effort on this. I believe, if we have the courage to say so, it is the intention of this body and the broader General Assembly that we will spend the money necessary to catch those kids up in that reading gateway between their kindergarten and third grade year. I urge your support of 02.
Is there further discussion? Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And colleagues, I would urge a no vote on this Cow amendment. As we discussed during earlier debate, the good news is for the Senator from Monument, yes, we have the courage. In fact, we are doing this already. Between federal and state money, we will be spending approximately $100 million on this express purpose. The other thing to keep in mind is that the proponent of this amendment is asking for money that would be allocated after July 1st. So keep that in mind. This is not something that can be rolled out in time for this immediate summer school. And the good news is we have federal money and state money already going to that purpose. So please vote no on this amendment.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the counter argument, but it lacks the precision of what the circumstances actually are. Yes, there is money that's going. The READ Act is funded. I mean, it's part of what we normally do through the normal formula. But it's funded for what happened before. We need more focused money. The answer is there's federal money, but the federal money is unfocused. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't even know if it's going to arrive in the state on time to do anything. We must take action. This amendment gives us the opportunity. I urge your support for 002.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 002, the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Zenzinger, Rankin, Hawkins Lewis, Coleman, Janal, Gonzalez, Fields, Rodriguez, Lee, Buckner, Patterson, Donovan, Moreno, Winter, the Majority Leader. Bridges, Hansen. Please add the President. With 17 aye votes, 18 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 002 is lost.
You guys will like these.
Amendment, there is an amendment at the desk, 003. Will the clerk please read Amendment 003?
Amendment 003 to the Committee of the Whole report.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment 3.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I know it was busy, a lot going on in a frenetic kind of environment. You get a chance here, colleagues, to help our students, to help the mental health of our students, to help prevent school violence, to help reduce suicides. That's what these three amendments do. And colleagues, I'd ask you to look at the dollar figures that we're talking about here, especially in the terms of the billions of dollars that we're spending and the tens of millions of dollars that we've already spent. So we'll start with, this is the amendment to Amendment 4, adding $2 million to the Department of Education, make those funds available for school bullying prevention and education grant programs. I'd ask for your aye vote, colleagues.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 003 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Moreno, Hansen, Majority Leader, Gonzalez, Rodriguez, please add the president. With 29 aye votes, 6 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 003 is adopted.
Who has 4? Where do we go to next? You have 4?
All me. These are all mine in order. Only 3 in order.
What's that like? Report.
Mental health screening for students.
I don't make students.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 004?
Amendment 004 to the Committee of the Whole
Senator
report.
Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to reiterate, I move Committee of the Whole Amendment 4.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allocating some money to try to help the mental health screening for our students. We know it's an issue, colleagues. A mere $2 million to help with that. I'd ask for your aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 004 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? No votes on Amendment 004. Senators.
You're kind of mumbling.
This is Amendment 004 to the Committee of the Whole report, members.
You'll like this. You don't need to vote no on this. This is a good one.
Oh, this is a good one.
Senate will stand in a brief recess.
Mental health screening?
The Senate will come back to order. Members, we are on Cal Amendment 004 to the Committee of the Whole. No votes on Amendment 004. Senators Kolker, Rankin, Zenzinger, Lee, Coleman, Hawkes Lewis, Fields, Gonzalez, Bridges, Janal, the Majority Leader, Rodriguez, Moreno, Hanson, Donovan, Buckner. Please add the President. With 17 aye votes, 18 no votes, excuse me, with 18 aye votes, 17 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment 004 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 005 to the Committee of the Whole?
For number 20.
Amendment 005 to the Committee
Smallwood.
of the Whole.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Amendment 20.
To the amendment.
First of all, thank you, colleagues. Thank you for helping address these issues in our state. I move Cal Amendment 5, which is the amendment to number 20 in your packets. And this is quite possibly the most important of the amendments that I'm bringing today, and it's also has the lowest price tag. This is an additional $500,000
to increase funding for suicide prevention program in CDPHE, and I'd ask for your aye vote. This is continuous funding, colleagues, continuous funding.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Amendment 005 to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes on Amendment 005? Senators Rankin, Hawkes Lewis, Zenzinger, Gonzalez, Buckner, Lee. The Majority Leader, Coleman, Moreno, Hanson,
No, you can move it, but I do want to talk on it.
Okay, I'll let you go first. You go first.
Members, I'm going to repeat no votes just so that we're making sure we get these accurately recorded. No votes currently on Amendment 005 to the Committee of the Whole include Senators Buckner, Coleman, the Majority Leader, Gonzalez, Hanson, Lee, Hawkes Lewis, Rankin, and Zenzinger so far. If you wish to be recorded as a no on Amendment 005, please raise your hand. Rodriguez, Janal, Moreno, Bridges. Please add the president. With 21 aye votes, 14 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 005 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 006 to the Committee of the Whole?
Committee of the Whole 006.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move Cal Amendment 006, which is a reference to Amendment 5 in our packet.
To the amendment, Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, what this does is it says that Amendment 5, which would provide a very modest 2% increase on the provider rate for our EMTs. I just want to read to you a letter to the editor that was posted back in May of 2020. It says, as our nation faces the greatest healthcare challenge of our time, every Coloradan has been touched in some way by this deadly virus. The threat from this invisible enemy feels close, invasive, and personal. Nobody better understands its highly contagious nature and calamitous effects than the brave Colorado paramedics, EMTs, and other first responders who serve on the front lines of this battle, dangerously close to patients in dire need. EMS providers are often the first and usually the only source of emergency and non-emergency care in rural communities, serving at the intersection of healthcare, public safety, and public health. EMS functions as a safety net across Colorado. Pandemic or not, when Coloradans and our many visitors dial 911 for emergency assistance, they expect a trained EMS responder to show up within a reasonable amount of time. The COVID-19 crisis has brought to a boil the long simmering EMS funding problem. And unfortunately, we will soon reach a juncture where response times may be too long to save lives. That was written by Scott Scholes, and in honor of the EMS providers, we gratefully and humbly ask for a yes vote.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I want to give you a couple of statistics that you might not have been aware of. I just got this also, and it says here, the last time that the Medicaid Provider Rate Review Advisory Committee reviewed transportation rates was in 2016. At that time, they found the rates of the EMT providers were 28% of the benchmark, just 28% of the benchmark. We realize that there's been some additional money, but 28% 5 years ago, you can imagine how much further than they've fallen behind. Another little statistic is that we've been told by a number of our good JBC members that there's a pool of money, some roughly $50 million that's been set aside for other legislative amendments like this. What we're asking for only represents 5/1000ths of 1%. I'll repeat that, 5/1000ths of 1%. We're not breaking the bank. We're just trying to keep the good EMS people in the game. We've also heard today earlier of all of the transportation amendments to get $3.5 million here, $6 million there, $10 million here. They've all been voted down, and these are on dangerous highways. Who do you think is going to get that first call? It's going to be the EMS providers. We respectfully ask for an aye vote on 006. Thank you very much.
Is there further discussion regarding Amendment 006? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of this amendment. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Hawkins Lewis, Donovan, Pedersen, Lee, Gonzalez, Rodriguez, Buckner, Bridges, Fields. Majority Leader. Please add the Senator Story. Senators Moreno, Hansen. Please add the President. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 006 is adopted. Will the clerk please read Amendment 007 to the Committee of the Whole?
Thank you.
Amendment 007 to Committee of the Whole.
Senator Liston. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move the Cal Amendment 007.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you. Members, I'm hovering in for one last plea to save our good forest lands and so forth for this helicopter. I realize it's expensive. There's no free lunch, but the old adage, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. This is a pay me now that will save us money, that it's an asset that we can phase in here in a couple of years. This will more than pay for itself, probably in just one wildfire. This Firehawk is an incredible piece of machinery and technology that will tremendously help our first responders in the forests, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. This will pay for itself many times over. Thank you very much.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this relates to Amendment 21 in your packet. So I know that's getting confusing. This is Amendment 21, and I would request a no vote. We did purchase, as we all know, one Firehawk helicopter that was in the supplemental package that was recommended by the Joint Budget Committee. Again, colleagues, I think this is, we did what we could. There's an important balance to maintain between fire mitigation and fire suppression. Plus, I think California bought all the rest that were available.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. To answer a question that was asked earlier in our caucus hearing, the Firehawk is the firefighting equivalent of the military's Black Hawk helicopter, but with firefighting equipment attached to it instead of military equipment attached to it. It's very cool, but $18 million when we have such incredible need in our state, especially in our public schools, is not what we should be spending this money on here today. I ask for a no vote.
Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I appreciate that, but one wildfire alone, like we saw last year, and we had 3 or 4 major ones, is hundreds of millions of dollars. So I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 007 to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Kolker, Zenzinger, Winter, Lee, Buckner, Janal, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Hawkins Lewis, Donovan, Fields, Coleman, Bridges, Moreno, Hansen, Please have the president. Majority Leader. With 17 aye votes, 18 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 007 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 008 to the committee of the whole?
Amendment 008 to the committee of the whole. Senator Cook moves to amend the report of the committee of the whole to show that the following Cook Floor Amendment 009, Amendment 22 to Senate Bill 205 did pass.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 008.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the body cam bill. You know, we pass laws down here and don't have any idea what programs are going to cost, so we only allocated $3 million for 13,000 plus law enforcement officers throughout the state. I've mentioned some of the costs earlier, but since that time, I've received some text messages. Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office alone is going to be spending $2.4 million on body cams. Jefferson County, $1.2 million. Larimer County, $1.98 million. Those are just 3 agencies. When we have over 260 law enforcement agencies in the state trying to buy body cameras. So this amendment would increase from $3 million to $6 million for the body camera grant program. And I'd ask for an aye vote to help out these law enforcement agencies in these counties.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this relates to Amendment 22 in your packet. I request a no vote.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 008 to the committee of the whole. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Hawkins Lewis, Lee, Buckner, Gonzalez, Rodriguez, Janal, Donovan, Coleman, Colker, Moreno, Hanson, the Majority Leader, Bridges. Please add the President. With 20 ayes, 15 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 008 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read Amendment 009?
Amendment 009 to the committee of the whole report. Senator Woodward moved to amend the report of the committee of the whole to show that the following Woodward Floor Amendment J028, Amendment number 25 to Senate Bill 205 did pass.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 9.
To the amendment, Senator.
Colleagues, this was originally Amendment 25, as you can see in front of you. And if you recall, we had some discussion about one of the most important pieces of the economic recovery of our state is to make sure that things like tourism, ag, and recreation, we can get them back on their feet. So this amendment puts money into very specific areas to help with recovery. Specifically, we're trying to fix Highway 119 near Boulder, I-70 in Wheat Ridge in Arvada, I-25 through Pueblo, and a whole list of projects up in the Delta, Blue Mesa, Lake City, Leadville, Vail, Hotchkiss, Crawford, Gunnison, Poncha Springs, and Salida areas. I'd ask for a yes vote so that we can get some of our roads and bridges fixed in some of those important areas so that we can recover.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of Amendment 009 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Hawkins Lewis, Rankin, Winter, Pedersen, Danielson, Senzinger, Lee, Buckner, Coleman, Story, Colker, Janal, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Fields, Donovan, Majority Leader, Bridges, Moreno, Hanson. Please add the President. With 14 aye votes, 21 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment 009 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 010 to the Committee of the Whole report?
Amendment 010 to the Committee of the Whole report. Senator Crookmeyer moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Senator Crookmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 010.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you. Members, this amendment is referring to amendment number 24, which, to remind you all, is to appropriate $149,550,000 to the State Highway Supplementary Fund. I would just remind you all again that the list of projects that was in this amendment honors the process. These are projects that were approved by the Transportation Commission to be in their 10-year strategic pipeline of projects. We are simply advancing projects that are within years 1 through 4. Members, we have one of the most healthiest state budgets in the last 20 years. If not now, when? Look at quorum. That's Senator, the good senator from Montrose. Let's show the people of Colorado we are serious about maintaining and building our transportation system. Let's put our money where we have to work for Colorado. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I would encourage a no vote on this Cal amendment. We just want to make sure that folks know that just because the reserve is at 13.5% does not make our budget one of the healthiest in the country. The reality is that that is there to guard against significant uncertainty that is coming, that we can expect. There is, at some point, actually in December, the federal public health order will expire. At that time, we will see a huge, colleagues, need for general fund to cover the Medicaid portions that the federal government is covering now. Those are things that are on the horizon that we need to be prepared for.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Cal Amendment 010 to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? Senators Hawkes Lewis, Rankin, Zenzinger, Winter, Danielson, Lee, Pedersen, Story, Rodriguez, Kolker, Janal, Buckner, Coleman, Gonzalez, Fields, the Majority Leader, Donovan, Bridges, Hanson, Moreno. Please add the President. With 14 aye votes, 21 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 010 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 011 to the Committee of the Whole report?
Amendment 011 to the Committee of the Whole report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 011.
To the amendment, sir.
Thank you. This is the amendment where Highway 92 in where we, excuse me, I got distracted to this. Lady came up. This Highway 92, $3.5 million. It's the death loop. I'm sure she was here to talk about the coroner, but you know, he happens to be a good friend of mine, and you can actually trust what the coroner says. I'm going to tell you, he's the last guy in the world to let you down over there. But this is important. This is public safety. Deaths, and deaths. Ask for an aye vote. $3.5 million.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this relates to Amendment 31 in your packet. I encourage a no vote.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 001 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Fields, Janal, Story, Winter, Lee, Pedersen, Buckner, Gonzalez, Kolker. Senator Fields, I have you recorded as a no. Rodriguez. Senator Rodriguez, I have you recorded as a no. Coleman, Bridges, Hawkes Lewis, Hanson, Moreno. Majority Leader. Please have the President. Please add Senator Danielson. With 16 aye votes, 19 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 001 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 013?
Amendment 013 to the Committee of the Whole report.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move 013. This is $6 million we're talking about passing lanes on Blue Mesa. So if you recall, if you happen to be in the room when we talked about this earlier, Highway 50 between Montrose and Gunnison, which is the Blue Mesa Canyon, is going to be closed starting Monday for 19 hours a day for 2 years. No traffic. You have one-way traffic, 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning, 12:30 to 1:30, and 5:30 to 7:30. So it makes absolutely perfect sense to add this project, $6 million, to that project where you've already got the traffic stopped. I think it's a matter of common sense. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this relates to Amendment 32 in your packet. I encourage a no vote.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 013 to the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Zenzinger, Danielson, Winter, Pedersen, Lee, Story, Janal, Buckner, Colker, Rodriguez, Hawkes Lewis, Fields, Gonzalez, the Majority Leader, Coleman, Bridges, Moreno, Hanson. Please add the President. With 15 aye votes, 20 no votes, 20 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that amendment is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 014?
Amendment 014 to the Committee of the Whole report.
Senator Heisey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 014.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you. This pertains to amendment number 37, which was paving making some passing lanes east of Salida, for those of you that may have missed that earlier. This is our chance for a doable amount of money to save lives, put people to work in rural Colorado, and enhance a major east-west corridor in Colorado. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this relates to Amendment 37 in your packet. I encourage a no vote.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 014. Are there any no votes? Senators Hawkes Lewis, Rankin, Danielson, Winter, Story, Zenzinger, Pedersen, Lee, Buckner, Janal, Colker, Rodriguez, Fields, Gonzalez, Coleman, the Majority Leader, Bridges, Hanson, Moreno. Please add the President. With 15 aye votes, 20 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment 014 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 015?
Amendment 015 to the Committee of the Whole report. Senator Sonnenberg moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to show that the following Sonnenberg floor amendment J013, Amendment 38 to Senate Bill 205 did pass.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President, for waking me up from my nap, apparently. I move Cal 1.5.
To the amendment, Senator.
Thank you, members. This is the amendment about the Capital Development Committee and the capital funding. Let me be a little more specific now on what we're doing. We have eliminated the mechanical systems portion, and understand in Greeley, University of Northern Colorado, we've been fighting trying to get them their upgrades, their mechanical systems, their sewer, all of that stuff. $3.7 million there. One of the other focuses of capital development has been to try and help higher ed put out healthcare workers. So we have made priorities such as in Metro State College for a health institute, $7.2 million. And down in Pueblo, at Pueblo Community College, medical technology for a mere $600,000. The Joint Budget Committee chose not to fund those and fund the out-year costs, as well as turning an overhead power line into an underground power line. Replacing electrical transformers that aren't bad, they're just older, and they'd like newer ones. Replace roofs, even though they don't leak, because they think it's time to replace roofs. Here's the great one. They also, instead of funding those projects, want to fund changing the irrigation system for a lawn at a state building. That's on the list now instead of those buildings. Here's what's others concerning to me. We on capital development have tried to spread that money throughout the state. As you can see, you look at Greeley, you look at Pueblo, we've done some things in other parts of the state. The new from the Joint Budget Committee has now made this a Denver-Boulder-centric capital development list. What they changed was Community College of Denver, they boosted their money of a $30 million project and gave them $15 million of that, even though they didn't ask for it. The interesting part is, University of Colorado at Boulder has a $35 million project, and with the change that the Joint Budget Committee made, they get all $35 million. That truly has changed the dynamics of what we have done with the Capital Development Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to honor what the Capital Development Committee did as they tried to provide those resources for healthcare, as they tried to spread the money throughout the state of Colorado, and not make this a Denver-Boulder-centric capital development list. Ask for your aye vote on Amendment 15.
Is there further discussion? Senator Hansen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I thoroughly reject that characterization of what we've done here. We added Trinidad, we added Pueblo projects in the order that the CDC put them on the list. We took the chance to do what we should do every single year, which is make sure we cover controlled maintenance 1 and 2. These are not just like to have or would be nice to have maintenance projects. It's not because the transformer is old, it's because it's on the verge of failure. That's why it's on controlled maintenance 1 and 2 list. We cannot build the next new thing before we take care of our existing buildings. That is not a good way to run the railroad, folks. That's why we took these steps to make sure we're covering maintenance costs, and we did it in the order that CDC requested. We added more projects on Tier 2. We added Trinidad, we added Pueblo projects. And we covered the out-year costs of projects that the CDC put in Tier 1. Let's be clear. They were in Tier 1. And we were presented a list that had $110 million of out-year costs that were going to be basically tied to. And we moved some of those costs into this fiscal year so that we don't have a massive liability in the coming 2 fiscal years. That is sound financial management. That is taking care of your existing buildings before you get to add the next new project. That's what we presented in the long bill. We did it in conjunction with the CDC. We did it in the order that they put forward. This is not a metro-centric list. We've covered projects all over the state, and we've balanced the need for maintenance with the ability to do new projects. I urge a no vote on this Cal amendment.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I will encourage a no vote on this amendment as well. I don't think it's fair to call this a Denver-Boulder-centric list, because the reality is, with the additional money that we freed up, we moved further down the Tier 2 list. We got to Pueblo Community College, and we got to Lamar Community College because of those additional resources. Those aren't in Denver or Boulder. So I don't think that's a fair characterization. What we did do is prepay the out-year costs of what we've already committed ourselves to. That is, they were in Tier 1. They are over multiple phases. What we did do is, I believe, do the fiscally sound thing, which is to take care of our obligations in the out years, given the fact that we still are facing economic uncertainty and uncertainty in the budget.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'm talking about the changes that was made by the JBC makes it a Denver-centric list. But let's just talk about those that, and let's be clear also. He said they went in order. That's not true either. Controlled maintenance line item 24. They stopped funding at line item 19. So they moved line item 24 up in front of line 20. So they didn't follow the order. But let's talk about the money they're talking about. When they talk about spreading money throughout the state, Lamar Community College, $1.9 million. Trinidad Junior College, $6.2 million. I don't remember what else he talked about outside of Denver. But here, let me reemphasize. CU Boulder, $35 million. Not that I'm against CU Boulder, but to fund their entire project at the expense of some of those others that I listed for you, because we sat for 3 days and listened to all the presentations from both state agencies and higher ed, so we could put up a priority list. This is the list that we put together after those hearings. If somebody lobbied to change that list, take it for what it's worth, but I'm asking for a yes vote.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 015 to the Committee Whole Report. Are there any no votes? Senators Rankin, Hawkins Lewis, Danielson, Kolker, Story, Chenal, Zenzinger, Winter, Rodriguez, Coleman, Fields, Pedersen, Donovan, Buckner, Lee, Gonzalez, Bridges, the Majority Leader, Hansen, Moreno. Please add the President. With 14 aye votes, 21 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Amendment 015 is lost. Will the clerk please read Amendment 001?
Amendment 001 to the Cal report.
Senator Corn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move 001. I apologize for taking my mask off, but frankly, I fear I might hyperventilate, and I'm not sure anybody here would revive me. Thank you. If you have kids or grandkids, listen up. Otherwise, you might not care. What we're asking for in this amendment is $5 million of the $100 million that was put into the Department of Education. I am told that, well, you know, stimulus funds could probably cover this later. So why not? Let's pass the bill now and replace it with stimulus funds later. My good sponsor talked about Jeffco County, the cost of transportation. But the fact is, of 178 school districts, and I mentioned this to you earlier, the extra cleaning costs from my district alone, our district, Montrose High School, RE1J, is $141,000. If you take 178 school districts into $5 million, that's $28,000 per school district. Not a lot of cash. Not a lot of cash. 0.005% of the rainy day fund. So, you know, you remind me of the old lady that would not buy groceries. She would not eat because she had to save her money. She died of starvation. It's time to talk about school buses, shortages. School buses are hard to get drivers for. But for more than 20 years, the National Traffic Safety Administration and DOT have been tracking injuries, accidents, and fatalities of children that travel to and from school using methods other than a school bus. The fact that students are 70 times more likely to be injured or killed on their way to or from school if they use any other mode of transportation. We talk about shooting industries, injuries, deaths in schools. But the child who gets ran over crossing a crosswalk when they probably should have been on the school bus makes the nightly news and is forgotten by all those except that parent that lost that child. That parent never forgets that loss. I talked about Dr. Michael Cardona. Connecticut passed 10 years ago a bill that outlaws the use of toxins in our schools because of the constant harm that pesticides pose to students, staff, and the environment. 10 years later, it's still working. The fact is, there's no reason to poison the environment and endanger health and safety of our children, our students, and our staff. This amendment proposes to simply provide a test budget for schools who wish to use FDA, EPA, CDC, list in approved broad-spectrum disinfectant. The amendment would make possible to kill all the pathogens that can concern our students, our school bus drivers, and especially our parents, so we can get our kids back to school in the safest possible way. Facts about sustainable hypochlorous acid It's producing our own white blood cells to fight infection. It does not need to be wiped off at all, making the school bus drivers much easier. It dissolves into a saline solution. In fact, it is so devoid of risk that it's approved by the FDA in eye drops to kill pink eye, and mouthwash to kill gingivitis, and nationally by EPA to kill COVID-19. Hospital grade disinfectants, food grade. The active ingredient your own body makes. And we're afraid to say, wow, we can't spend $5 million out of that. That's marijuana tax funds. Even though we could replace them at a later date with stimulus funds. Does not make any sense to me. We're talking a product that's made by several companies. It's out there, it's available, and certainly would save our schools a lot of money, get our kids back in school, and be safe. For $5 million, you're saying, I don't want this. I would rather use toxins. Wipe that bus down with some toxins. You know, it's just a kid. Give me a break. Is this really what we have come to? Do we sit back and say, well, that doesn't fit into this little slot, so we can't do that? Kids aren't that important. Teachers aren't that important. If not now, when? I'm going to say this once again. If not now, when? And I've often said it's not always easy to do the right thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, protecting our children, getting the toxins out of their system is the right thing. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Zenzinger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have carried several school safety bills with my co-sponsor here, and as you can see, he's very passionate about this subject. We did notice that during COVID, our school bus safety was an issue. One of the benefits that we have learned from mask wearing, however, is that other incidents of health, such as flu and other contagious types of illnesses, have actually gone down. Those illnesses will come back once we stop using masks because of COVID. And so the benefit of this program carries over into the future. It doesn't just help us now, protecting our kids from a very dangerous disease, but it actually protects our kids into the future as well. So I would ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, you won't see a corresponding amendment for this Cow amendment in the long bill amendment package because, as many of you know, we write the long bill to current law. And the reality is that this Cow amendment creates a new program. So it couldn't be run through the long bill because it's creating a new program that has no basis in state law currently. That's why you see it as an amendment to Senate Bill 208 instead. And as I explained earlier, colleagues, Senate Bill 208 is a total of 10 lines. And all it is transferring $100 million from the general fund to the state education fund. But this is a multi-page amendment that creates a new program that I believe does fall outside the scope of the title of that bill. I didn't ask for a title ruling, but I will still encourage your no vote at this time. I do think there are other funding streams that are available. Maybe it's federal dollars, Maybe it's some of the state stimulus dollars, but either way, it doesn't belong in this bill. Perhaps it does belong in a bill like the School Finance Act or its own independent bill that creates this pilot program. But for Senate Bill 208, I don't think it is appropriate for this bill, and I request no vote.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment 001. Are there any no votes? Senators Winter, Buckner, Lee, Pedersen, Danielson, Story, Gonzalez, Colker, Fields, Donovan, Majority Leader, Bridges, Coleman, Rankin, Hawkins Lewis, Hanson, Moreno. Please have the president. With 17 aye votes, 18 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Amendment 001 is lost. The question before the body is adoption of the committee whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 205 is amended, Senate Bill 211, Senate Bill 215, Senate Bill 218 is amended, Senate Bill 219, Senate Bill 222, Senate Bill 223, Senate Bill 224, as amended, Senate Bill 228, as amended, Senate Bill 208, Senate Bill 225, passed on second reading, ordered and engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1102 as amended, House Bill 1097, passed on second reading, ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 177, Senate Bill 061, Senate Bill 072, Senate Bill 173, Senate Bill 116, House Bill 1106, laid over until 4/9/21, and retaining their place on the calendar. Consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the Colorado Traumatic Brain Injury Trust Fund Board, effective June 30, 2020, for terms expiring June 30, 2023. Renee Charlotte Smith of Centennial, Colorado, appointed. Daniel Lindbergh of Denver, Colorado, appointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all of the members on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, which includes members of the Colorado Traumatic Brain Injury Trust Fund Board.
The motion is for the confirmation of all the appointments listed on the consent calendar, which includes those referenced by the Majority Leader. Is there any discussion on any of those appointments? Seeing none, are there any no votes on any of the confirmations under the consent calendar? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, all of those appointments are confirmed. Message from the reviser.
April 8th, we herewith transmit without comment House Bills 1116, 1133, 1173, 1235, without comment as amended House Bills 1006, 1084, 1095, 1099, 1136, 1139, 1181, 1207, 1224, and 1236.
Signing bills.
April 9th, the President has signed Senate Bills 96, 102, and 122.
Message to the Governor.
April 8th, Colorado Senate, honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to the authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 70, County Authority to Register Businesses, approved on Wednesday, April 7, 2021 at 6:10 p.m.
Delivery to the Governor.
April 8th, to the Governor for signature on Thursday, April 8th at 8:30 a.m. Senate Bills 12, 26, 73, 78, 121, 141, and 157.
Announcements. Senator Gonzalez.
So, Mr. President, I want to just appreciate everyone and their good work. I want to extend my commendations as well to the Minority Caucus chair as well. And collectively, we were able to, I think, speak to everyone on the floor and ask them what time they thought we would finish our work today. There was some discrepancy and some question as to whether we were talking about the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report and the long bill or gaveling out. And so given that and given the proximity in time, I'm going to call and appreciate the two individuals who got closest. I want to appreciate the good senator from Weld County, Senator Kirkmeyer, who guessed 4:21 p.m. And I also want to appreciate, because we gavelled out and adopted the committee report on second readings at 4:26 p.m. and Senator Rodriguez for the good senator from Denver for when we're about to adjourn right here at 4:30. And so, hey!
Mr. Minority
And with
Leader.
that, I want to thank y'all for all of your good work, and I want to thank and appreciate everybody for all that you do.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having understood this to be the time that we would adjourn, I would request an hour of personal privilege.
Senator Gonzalez.
Well, in that case, I would request an hour and about 12 minutes of personal privilege.
Further announcements. Having no other announcements, members, we truly want to thank you for all your work, the staff, the Joint Budget Committee staff, the members of the Joint Budget Committee, each and every one of you, thank you for your work. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until tomorrow at 9 a.m. April 9th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in adjournment until 0900 hours on Friday, April 9th, 2021.